Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We start in the name of our Lord, the most gracious, the most merciful. With all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, we greet you with the greeting of peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It gives me great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to tonight's event, the first of the Dr. Gilbert tour to South Africa. And together with Salam Media and our partners and those who have supported us throughout this entire campaign in planning, in setting up, in getting these large numbers into this hall tonight, we thank our partners as well. But we also acknowledge the presence of our honored guest, Dr. Gilbert, former Minister Ronnie Kasrils, who is at the young age of 85 today. I was told to keep it a secret. We also acknowledge the presence of Mametlu Sibai with Giwusa, and also heads of organizations, religious groups, members of government, and a special mention to Sheikh Abdul Salam Basuni. We acknowledge your presence as well. Lungisile Dudumeza with the South African Correctional Services Union, and also Ibrahim and Tasneem Good. We acknowledge your presence. Now, as is customary, we'd like to begin with a prayer, and we need to invoke the blessings. We need to invoke the mercy of the Almighty, particularly the people of Palestine, for their safety, for their security. And we'd like to call upon Mr. Ismail Muhammad, who is with the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, to lead us in prayer.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the day of judgment. Thee alone do we worship, and Thee alone do we ask for help. Show us the straight path, the path of those on whom Thou hast bestowed Thy grace, and not the path of those on whom Thou hast displayed Thy anger. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa aminu salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqq, wa tawasaw bis sabr. Sadaqallahu al-Azim.
We thank you, Mr. Ismail Muhammad, and we say Ameen to your prayers. Now, I am Inayat Wadi from Salam Media, and this evening I will be directing the program. And just a brief introduction to Salam Media. We are a multiple online audio-visual broadcaster. We were born in 2015 with a key focus on humanitarian journalism, where we don't only tell the stories, we live these stories, we act upon these stories, we give a voice to the voiceless, which is exactly what tonight's event is all about. And this is going to be one of many that we will be hosting in the country, but tonight being the first with Dr. Gilbert South African tour. Now, without going into much detail, because time is of the essence, when we met and fetched Dr. Gilbert at the airport this morning, we witnessed that he was deeply pained and he was deeply concerned. And one of the first statements that Dr. Gilbert made is he would rather be in Gaza right now rather than being in South Africa. And we can understand why. On this tragic 39th consecutive day, the Israeli occupation, the army persists in its aggressive actions. It has ruthlessly, and this is the stark reality of what is unfolding, and some are actually calling a Holocaust. This is a distressing reality where children, women, civilians, homes, hospitals, all have become deliberate targets. And this by employing the most lethal weapons that an army can possess: warplanes, tanks, shells, missiles, phosphorus bombs, and all of this a brutal genocidal war against a defenseless Palestinian people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without a shadow of doubt, it is painful. It is extremely painful to watch minute by minute, hour by hour, week after week, Gaza at the mercy of this merciless, oppressive, genocidal, and murderous Zionist regime. And as we speak, Gaza is being turned and transformed from a concentration camp to an extermination camp. And this pain could not be any greater, especially for those of us who have been victims of an apartheid era in South Africa, when we witness this carnage unfolding, and we see it with arrogance, we see it with impunity, the ethnic cleansing, the scorched earth policy. No amount of words or adjectives are sufficient to describe this horror of all horrors. Just today, we witnessed the Nazi Israeli army forcefully storming the Al-Shifa hospital, a hospital that is very, very close to the heart of Dr. Gilbert. And with this aggression, which has been blessed, it has been endorsed by the likes of the White House, the Pentagon. It has effectively given this occupation the green light to perpetrate further massacres against innocent civilians. Now, one of the reasons why we are here tonight is to listen to what Dr. Gilbert has to say, to heed his call, but also at the same time, in whatever manner or form, to raise our voices, to hold to account the Israeli occupation leaders, along with their accomplices, the Bidens, the Blinkens, the Sunaks, and all of them. And at the same time, even warning the United Nations of their silence and their inaction. And this includes the inaction of numerous countries and governments. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a message that is loud and clear. We will not deter in our unwavering commitment to the people of Palestine. We will embrace their cause, and we will embrace this cause for humanity as a cause for justice. We will remain steadfast for this cause, and at the same time, we will recognize the sacrifices of the Palestinians against all odds. We will be relentless in our cause to get rid of this racist, supremacist, imperialist ideology, which is a cancer to all humanity, where every drop of blood and every life that the Palestinians have lost, men, women, and children, is a life and a drop of blood that will save humanity. At the same time, we will send a powerful and a profound message, even in our country, to the political leaders and the parties who support this murderous state, that the colonizers, the occupiers, the settlers, the invaders, the war criminals, the genociders, baby killers, and the perpetrators of crimes against humanity have no right to defend themselves, and you will not protect anyone. So with these few words, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you who have gathered here tonight. But before we get to our first speaker, we have a few announcements. We have some ground rules, and rule one is the Q&A session that will be here later on after Dr. Gilbert's address. We encourage you to use your mobile phones where you can. We've got a WhatsApp number that is coming up, but please We ask you to keep your questions and comments as short as possible. The number I'm going to read out to you is 061 766 0355. And if we do have time, we will also take questions from the floor. But I would say that please try and keep those questions as brief as possible. Also, this event is linked to a fundraiser. This is for medical supplies in particular. You may have seen the ladies walk around with the boxes, handing out pledge forms. So if you haven't completed a pledge form and you would like to donate to this worthy cause, please contact one of our ladies, or they will be around throughout the part of the program. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the first of our speakers tonight, the birthday boy, as young as 85, none other than the Honorable former Intelligence Minister, struggle stalwart, Mr. Ronnie Kasrils.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Sanibonani Dumelang. Good evening, everybody. We're really here to listen to an outstanding human being who has been doing so much for the people of Palestine and the beleaguered, bleeding people of Gaza. And Dr. Comrade Mads, we're waiting to hear that. I want to get over with my speech and the others as well, so that we can get this first-hand report. But obviously, there are a few things that we've been asked to present here. And there is the aspect of how we analyze the situation in brief. And most important, because out of clarity of understanding, and I'm not saying you don't understand at all, but we all need to understand from the same book in order that we advance and we act in solidarity with the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza, at this moment of their greatest need. So I am going to be followed by other speakers, including my comrade Nazim Adam, who will speak about what we can do now, immediately, with the ceasefire, with what our government should do, with what we should do as civil society, people on the ground who can make a huge difference. And I'll come back to that as with everybody on Earth, on this dear mother planet, every decent human being that is, and it's a planet in conflict, in struggle for a better future for all, including our children, including babies who are in incubators, who are coming into life, the women, the children, the elderly, to make a better world, a better South Africa, and a world where Palestine is free. And let me just start, by the way, with a slogan, what we love, and yet in Western countries, it's being banned. And I'm sure you're all aware of a woman who has just been sacked by Rishi Sunak, who's making so much money, the wealth of his family comes out of intelligence technologies, which is within Israel itself. Well, he had to get rid of somebody the British are calling not Suella Braverman, but Cruella. And this stupid woman, you've heard her say that as Home Affairs Minister, they should ban this anti-Semitic slogan, a slogan of hate, which goes, free, free Palestine from the river to the sea. So for Dr. Mad, I want you to know how here in democratic South Africa, we don't have these bans, and we enjoy pouring out from our hearts that we are Gaza, we are Palestine, we are human beings, and let's all give it vent. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. From the river to the sea. Free, free Palestine from the river to the tree. Siyabonga kakhulu, you're a great audience, and it's a great welcome you're giving to our guest here. We are hearing statistics day after day. They sear into our hearts and our minds. We're living with the pain of the people of Palestine. But we have to pay attention to these statistics that grow day after day. And already today, the statistic is 11,500 Palestinians murdered, 75% women and children, 4,500 children. We've seen them, these babies, the 3-year-olds, the 5-year-olds, with the parents running into these smashed hospitals with the bleeding children or the dead children. We see the old people wounded. We see the women in anguish. It is horrendous. Everyone, every number is a human being, like everyone sitting next to you, like the children at home. This is the biggest crime since that Holocaust, which wasn't only against Jews, by the way. There were millions who were slaughtered. And that's a real sin of Zionists, that they only pay attention to the Jews who died. I come from a Jewish background, and I can tell you, I know how insidious these people can be. Don't be charmed by the smiles of your business associates and kids at school, etc. It is horrendous, it's ethnic cleansing, it is genocide, and we use those terms. And it's utter murder, it's utter murder. And when we talk about numbers, we are South Africans. Mads here, he knows of Sharpeville. 69 people were butchered on the 21st of March 1960, and 200 were wounded. 69. Do your arithmetic. I'm not that great, and I don't have a calculator. But to me, it seems, Mads, that there are something like 7 or 8 Sharpevilles that have been taking place every day since the 7th to the 8th of October, every single day. That's the crime of that magnitude. Can you imagine? And when that one Sharpeville occurred in March of 1960, why is it that most of the world, even those Western former colonial powers, in their timid way, apart from their citizens, and certainly not like people in the global south or other parts of Europe, but the former colonial powers that support Israel to the hilt, and that's the US and those former colonial powers of Europe. How is it that they came down on apartheid South Africa, and that today, with the equivalent of 7 Sharpevilles a day going for 5 weeks now, they still allow Israel the green light to do what Israel wants? And it's what we learned in South Africa in our struggle and what we still face. And that is that the United States, the leading butcher in the world, don't have the time to go through the record, the criminal record. And countries like Britain and France and Germany the key ones, and the others give the green light. And if anybody dares to say, including a Jewish history teacher the other day in Israel, who said to his class, you can't just look at the 7th of October and think that's the beginning, and therefore the Palestinians are murderers and have created this. Look at the context, he said to the class. Understand the context. I don't have the time, you know the context. Going way back, 1948, even years before, with the Zionist colonial settlement, which became an apartheid state. And that man was arrested and put in prison. That's the nature of this fascist state that Zionism has created, because that's the nature of Zionism. It's like Afrikaner nationalism, absolute extremism. It's totally exclusive of other people just for a Jewish state. And the fact that we've got to get rid of the Palestinians, which is what we're seeing now from 1948, Nakba, 1967, more refugees, the situation today, I think you're all clear, because if you listen to what the damned gangsters who run Israel are saying, from Netanyahu to his army generals and others, that we're mowing the lawn, we're getting rid of the Palestinians, they'll go and live in Sinai, and if not, let 50 countries in the world take 20,000 Palestinians each and settle them there. And you see the samut, the determination, the steadfastness of the Gazan people and the people of the West Bank. They will not move, they will not move. They will not be refugees. No. We have said over and over, those of us from South Africa who ever went there, I went there twice as a minister, in 2004 with Comrade Aziz Pahad on the delegation. We met Yasser Arafat after he'd been bombed in Ramallah, and I went again in 2007. Not just me, but so many South Africans from the struggle. They came back and they said, it is worse than apartheid, worse than apartheid. And Archbishop Tutu in 1989 said, it's as bad as apartheid, but it got much worse. So let me come to the end here. First point I want to make is understand the context and why desperate people who stood up for the right to resist attacked the Israeli military bases around Gaza, and my goodness, they actually smashed them and showed that Israel is not invincible. And whatever happened after in the local villages and kibbutzim, it wasn't just the Hamas people who killed. There are Israeli survivors who said, you know, the Hamas people who held me hostage, the lady from a kibbutz said, was very polite. The man even asked me politely if he could have a banana from a plate. He was fine. People died when the Israeli soldiers came in with planes, helicopters, and tanks and mowed everybody down, whether they were Jews or whether they were Hamas. So this figure that they've given, you've got to take into account how many people were actually murdered by their own side, who don't care about the hostages. You can see what Netanyahu, they don't care, they're fascists. They don't even care about their own people. They just want to dominate, and they want to crush the Palestinian people once and for all. Okay, thanks. So that is the right of resistance, which Dr. Mads, we adopted in South Africa because there was no other way but to take up weapons and struggle. And the Palestinians have the right to do that. And we stand by that, the right to resist. And in relation to the right to resist, it's up to those who resist to deal with their methods. And we believe, and I'll tell you, I believe, having been a freedom fighter, never facing what the resistance has to face in the West Bank or in Gaza, that nevertheless, don't succumb to despair, that the Israelis and the American support, the Bidens or the Trumps, it's capital America, imperialist America, they are in deep trouble. They don't know how to get out of the problem. The contradictions are immense in both Israel, in the USA, and in those Western countries. And you can begin to see and hear how Biden and Blinken and those in Europe are beginning to start changing their tune a little, because they're getting very embarrassed by the fact that unlike 1948, the world is seeing the genocide carried out on television screens. So that's basically the scene I wanted to set, and to leave you with the following major point that I want to make. That whilst the resistance lives and survives and fights back, and there are Israeli invaders who are dying, they talk about 44. There are obviously many more. And they're dead scared to get into those tunnels. And I was just reading something today from an Israeli observer who had been into Gaza, who discovered that the Israeli troops don't get out of the tanks and the armored cars, not even to go to the toilet. Seriously. That the guy reports that these guys, these cowards, are sitting in their tanks and their armored cars, and they are wearing under their pants these nappies for adults. Seriously. It's a small little insight, but this is the case. Every day, every week and month that the resistance holds out and the Gaza people hold out and refuse to leave their Gaza Strip is deeper trouble for the Israelis, and you know the contradictions that Netanyahu faces, and for the US and for Western Europe. That's going to spell a major crisis in Israel and in the collective West. So it comes to the point, and I'm not elaborating here, others will, including Comrade Nazir, it's what do we do? And I'm leaving you just with the reminder that in our struggle, we found that international solidarity and the boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaigns isolated Pretoria regime, strengthened the struggle of our people, put pressure on those same Western countries that stand by Israel, who in the end had to buckle under the inner contradictions they were facing in their system and the protests from the streets. And we see this, millions already. We saw this in Cape Town on the weekend. Here, in the economic hub of Johannesburg and the Reef, where the trade unions, comrade, are so vital, and the workers, but all of us from all sectors, including the Jews, for justice for Palestine, a smaller group as they are, all together we create a profound power from the streets and from civil society, and to pressurize a government which is beginning to really take much stronger steps. And I'm sure Comrade Nazir will remind you of the role that Cyril Ramaphosa now is playing in terms of isolating South Africa, Israel, taking the Israeli ruling regime and the generals to the International Court and so on. And if South Africa, through our impassion and our urgent and our demands, pressurizes government, gets behind Naledi Pandor, a courageous foreign minister who has been standing up, then, comrades, friends, we can take the kind of stand that small Bolivia in Latin America, the first country to do what South Africa should take in the lead with, and that is send the ambassador packing and cut off all ties with apartheid Israel. And this is really how we can strengthen the resistance in Palestine. So please give all of your energy, your support, your mobilization to this growing protest against the slaughter of the people of Palestine. We can do it, and we can win. Viva Palestine, viva! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea. Aman Kla. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Comrade Ronnie. And when Comrade Ronnie speaks about South Africa and what we've been through in the apartheid era, is actually a walk in the park. It's a picnic. And this is what Comrade Ronnie was trying to say. But at the same time, just looking at us as South African society, a cross-section of South African society, from politicians to activists to NGOs, trade unions, we've got what it takes in this country. And we speak to people from Palestine all the time. We speak to people right across the entire world. And when they look at their struggle, they look at the South African struggle. We cannot imagine how high a regard they have for South Africa, how they are taking a look, how they are looking at South Africa to take the lead in taking their struggle forward. And this is something we seriously need to bear in mind. Moving on and talking of a cross-section of South African society, our unions have been at the forefront of the support for the cause of Palestine. And this is the reason on the speakers list this evening, we've got the president of the General Industries Workers Union of South Africa, Kiwusa. We've got, and he always willing to appear on media, on Salam Media in particular. And we appreciate his time always. Mametle David Sibe.
Amanda! Free Palestine! Comrades, I'm not going to take as much time as Comrade Ronnie Kasrils. I think we are all in concurrence with all that he said. But I think, comrades, it is also important for me also to impress you about the gravity of the situation, because we don't want you to sleep. It is absolutely unacceptable that in this day and age, having again and again said never and never again do we allow a genocide to happen in our own time. There was a carnage of World War I and II. We said never and never again. There was a carnage of Holocaust in Germany. There was a carnage of genocide in Rwanda. We said never and never again. Today, there is a genocide in Palestine, and many of us want to go on as if is business as usual. That, comrade, is unacceptable. You just have to understand what is actually happening there. And I think the main speaker will be able to outline in details. But suffice to say, on the last count, Israeli regime had dropped in an aerial bombardment over 30,000 tons of bombs, over only 141 square miles of an area that is Gaza Strip, that is densely populated. To put that into perspective, comrades, that is more than 2 nuclear bombs on the square miles of an area. And the result has been nothing short of an apocalypse that is catastrophic images that we have seen of children, of women, of civilians being indiscriminately targeted in the indiscriminate destruction both of property and, most importantly, of lives of children and women in their homes. Over 300,000 homes have been bombed, people in hospitals, in mosques, in clinics, in churches, everywhere there is no place of refuge. Over 200,000 people have been forced from their homes in a long march that many have described as a march of death and fear to the south of Gaza. That, comrades, is a situation. And that is in a context where Israel is actually saying they are very far away from their strategic targets and objectives in the genocidal and murderous campaign. Now, some have argued those objectives are not achievable. And the only way that they can, if they could, destroy Hamas is basically massacring and ethnically cleansing of the whole of Palestine. Because the reality is, the armed resistance of Palestinians is the Palestinians themselves. Because the only way that they can exist in a context of a genocidal settler colonialism is to resist. And to resist even by means of arms. Now, when Israel, with the cheering and the support of United States and the whole of Western imperialism, say to us they want to destroy Hamas, many are saying, well, I don't agree with Hamas and so on, and therefore, well, if only they leave the civilians. The reality is that objective itself, at this point in time, is nothing short of Holocaust in Palestine. We've got to call it for what it is. Now, what can we do? I think that is a question that Comrade Ronnie posed. For me, it is said, of course, and I think I must say as well, that we do think the decision of South Africa to withdraw its diplomatic mission, or rather to recall it for briefing from Tel Aviv, is a step in the right direction. But comrades, pardon me here, I absolutely refuse to praise a bird for flying. Absolutely. 29 years into a government that was elevated by a struggle against apartheid. We have diplomatic ties with Israel. We still have an Israeli ambassador, even in the context that not myself, but South African government itself has described as genocide. What more should a democratic black majority government coming out of the struggle against apartheid need to say that this is a government that we must sever every tie that we have? But not only that, South African government in recent years, it has been deepening the economic ties with Zionism and Israeli apartheid state of Netanyahu and the far-right parties that govern the state. And we have seen it. They've allowed a takeover of Clover by Milko, a company that operates in the illegal Jewish settlements. That, I say, is not only a betrayal, it's a criminal betrayal in this situation, comrades. And I must say to you, this, unfortunately, is a logic of government that was brought to power by the mass movement in this country that has acceded to the system of capitalism and tied itself to work imperialism. And the very logic by which they are betraying the people of Palestine is a logic that drove them to betrayal of the black working class, as we have seen in Marikana and many other places, where they've defended the corporate profits over the lives and the struggles and demands of the working class in this country. Therefore, comrades, I'm saying the only force that is going to bring justice, genuine, consistent, and principled solidarity with the people of Palestine is the working class, its organizations, its movement, and the progressive people of this country. We cannot sit in our homes and hope that this government, because it says all the right things, is going to do the right things. 29 years is a long years of broken promises, betrayals, and of course, speeches, and walking right whilst talking left. We need to mobilize. That's the reason as GIUSA, we have called on the labor movement to call for a general strike for Palestine. That decision has been adopted by the Campaigns Committee of South African Federation of Trade Unions, and they have put a Section 77 notice to NETLAC that is going to protect every worker who decides to join our demonstration on that particular day. Comrades, we are saying on that day, which we are going to announce in coming 2-3 days at most, we want each and every one of you, and not to leave behind any single member of your family, to come out on the streets and to register that we, people who have lived through apartheid and the struggle against apartheid, in living memory, what we think about apartheid Israel and its genocidal campaign in Gaza and in Palestine as a whole. And I think it is on that note that we want to show that what happened in Cape Town was merely a dress rehearsal. We are going to show them what we are capable of, what we are thinking, because media has been saying South Africa is divided on this question. What they are forgetting to mention, that those parties and every single one of so-called civil society organizations that support them, that support Israel, are the same parties that stood for apartheid, that supported apartheid, that supported apartheid Israel. Even the so-called South African is it Board of Jewish Deputies or what? What did they call them? Jewish Board of Deputies. I don't know who elected them. These are people who honored, by the way, the men who prosecuted Nelson Mandela. These are people who, by the way, supported Israel as it was arming South Africa to develop a nuclear bomb. Who do you think South African nuclear bomb was aimed for? It was aimed for you in your struggle to liberate yourself. Now, they are going to blackmail you about anti-Semitism and all of that. But comrades, do not doubt yourself. We are on the right side of history. And on this side, we stand with the best and the most progressive thought of the Jewish people. And I think the presence here of Comrade Ronnie is a testament to that. And I think on that note, as I conclude, we are going to have to mobilize. And we are saying that on the day of action, we are going to announce in 2 to 3 days at most. We want to be out in our hundreds of thousands, because it cannot be right. It cannot be right that the people who, when the Palestinians are suffering, when the Palestinians are dying, the only source of hope and inspiration is their struggle. All our demonstrations at most have been in their hundreds and few thousands. We must say, we people who suffered apartheid, who fought apartheid, are with them, and as we have liberated ourselves, for as long as you are alive, Palestine is alive, their struggle is alive until Palestine is free. Amanda!
Well, clearly the message is getting louder and louder. It's getting clearer and clearer. And the voices are being amplified on behalf of the people of Palestine here in South Africa through the trade unions. Thank you, Mr. Mametle Davis Sibai. I now have the pleasure in calling Nazim Adam from the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. And we've seen the Palestine Solidarity movement grow in leaps and bounds in South Africa. And this is the reason why we are here today. And we thank the various formations of Palestine Solidarity over the years. And I'm sure Nazim will enlighten us, and also taking a look at the way forward, where to from here.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Amanda. Good evening, everyone. To follow Sibai and Ronnie is not easy, but I just want to acknowledge that we have giants amidst us today in the struggle for liberation, not only in our country, but the struggle for liberation of all oppressed people. And today we stand united for the people of Palestine, particularly in Gaza, but not forgetting that that Holocaust, that genocide is spreading in the West Bank with the settlers and the Israeli army every day and every minute. It's difficult for some of us who have been involved in the movement to sometimes stand and speak here because we know people personally. We've lost people. We fear for their safety. We fear for their children and their safety. But we take solace in the fact that when we speak to them and we ask them, how are they? They say we walk with our chins up. What we know of in our own country, those of us who were very active in the struggle, is that those who were part of Umkhonto we Sizwe and the other liberation armies, they gave us hope, and they told us that it's important that we use every means necessary to resist the enemy, because the enemy, as we can see, will use any means to kill, destroy, and commit genocide. And I want to just point out that next to me, sitting behind us, is a former commander of Umkhonto we Sizwe, the People's Army of this country. But do you condemn Hamas? Okay, comrades, with all that said, no one likes to see the numbers that we are seeing: 11,500 dead, tonight statistics, 4,710 of them, of the martyrs, are children. The missing has reached 3,640, including 1,770 children. The number of injured since the start of the Israeli aggression has risen to 29,800. More than 70% of them are women and children. Some of them, the doctors of Al-Shifa, had to leave unattended at gunpoint today, including babies in incubators. There is no end to the inhumanity that we are seeing coming out of apartheid Israel, a genocidal state. Friends, comrades, we are also seriously concerned that by tomorrow, Gaza will go dark. All the media and all the cell phones will be cut. You can only imagine what was going to happen when the eyes of the world are turned off. These eyes have also been turned off in the West Bank since before the 7th of October, with daily killings, arrests, house demolitions, and so forth. But there is hope. And we need to recognize that there is some hope. I hear you, Comrade Sebe. And yes, the pressure needs to remain on the government, 100%, especially tomorrow, when in Parliament there's a vote for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador. But there's hope because there are shifts in our government. As the PSA, which is part of the BDS coalition, we have since 2010 lobbied with the International Criminal Court for justice. We had Gaza Docket 1, Gaza Docket 2. We now presently have the Al-Aqsa Docket with the National Prosecuting Authority. And we are saying that all of that evidence is at the disposal of Minister Pandor and the government, should they wish to do that referral. The work is done. And in this week alone, I've met with maybe 2 or 3 dozen lawyers in 3 or 4 different conferences, everyone willing to give their time, their effort, sacrifice from their practice to make sure that South Africa puts in a very solid referral to the International Criminal Court, charging Israel for genocide, for crimes against humanity, for war crimes. And who better to charge Israel than those who know with the crime of apartheid? There is work to be done in those diplomatic spaces, and we're seeing shifts. We need to see them move faster. But let's be honest, we've also seen shifts in the media, not enough, and some media houses are embedded within the Zionist propaganda. We need to keep our pressure on them, our phone calls, our complaints. We have, in the past 5 or 6 years, lodged maybe 6 or 7 complaints, and some of them we have won. Some of these legal cases we have won as well. So we need to build on that, and we need to ensure that the clear enemies who have pinned their flags to the mast, the enemies of justice, freedom, dignity, the enemies of the struggle against colonialism, they are all now coming together under one coalition, and those are the political parties of the right, the political parties of the wrong. We know that they have been clearly bought out and entrenched in the Zionist lobby, and we need to expose them and we need to challenge them. At the same time, those parties that are standing with us need to also deal with some of the issues that we have, particularly corruption in our own country. Our vote is not for free. Last week, the PSA is also part of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. We met with the team in Turkey, and we can confirm that the flotilla is busy now on welfare projects to get medicine and medical supplies ready so that when that opening happens, that we will be able to get that supplies and volunteers, hopefully, into Gaza. Ordinary folk often ask, and it's been amazing, the response, what can we do? What more can we do? I'm going to say the first thing is volunteer to become part of a solidarity organization. I'm saying this because we need help, we need assistance. And I want to pause now here, and I'm going to call out 3 or 4 names. Sisters amongst us who are doing immense work under immense pressure, holding down day jobs, but are leading the solidarity movement every day. Sometimes we even have mammoth arguments, but I want to acknowledge the people from the BDS coalition and from the PSA and from the South African Jews for Free Palestine. I'm going to just mention Firoza, Roshan, and Rina. And I do this because we tend to work behind and push things and make things happen. Guys, you are amazing. Keep up the good work. There are many others also. You can check our websites and you can send an email and someone will get back to you. There's place for people to do social media. There's space for people to do media campaigning against a bad media. There's space for people to do workshops in education and training. There's space for people to do lobbying. There's space for people to do organizing. There's space for people to just be present. And we need you to do that. We need to be more organized for that. But there's another thing that has come out very clearly. And I must say this. The Boycott National campaign, launched in 2005 by over 100 civil society organizations in Palestine, is the most feared organization by the West and the enemies of Palestine. They don't pass laws in the American states to ban Abbas or to ban the PA, but they pass laws to ban boycotts. So it tells you that boycotts, divestments, and sanctions works. We in the BDS movement have identified a number of campaigns, but there are also grassroots campaigns, which we are recognizing and supporting. For example, the campaign for this Saturday to boycott and picket at the Sandton Africa Paddle at 9 a.m. is a grassroots campaign that we will give our full support to. And we will follow that one with a second protest outside the Cape Union Mud Poetry and Khaki stores in Rosebank. Be there, be present, come in your numbers, bring your placards. It is not acceptable that in a democratic, free South Africa, that there are still people who promote racism, because the promotion of Zionism, the promotion of Israel as a democratic state when it is nothing but a dictatorship of the Netanyahu clan, which is implementing a genocide on all of Palestine. There is no place for anyone to speak and say that they support this in a free South Africa. We will follow on Sunday. And here I want to say, it's not organized. But in our country, you have a right, if you are 15 people, to picket anywhere. Remember what happened to 94.7's news presenter? I'm just telling you, there's a cycle race on Sunday. Jan Smuts is a long road. 15 people can spread out very nicely on Jan Smuts and on Mandela Bridge and outside FNB and outside Reveille. Let us be present on Sunday, even if we stand alone. Our specific campaigns are going to be K-Way and the Cape Union Mart brands. McDonald's, which is emerged from grassroots. We're waiting now. Apparently the CEO wanted to speak to us. So we said to him, how many meals did you give to the Israeli soldiers? Can you match that for the poor and hungry children in South Africa? ZZ2, you know, the myth that the desert was greened by Israelis. Huh? If it was so dry, I don't think people would have stayed there for 5, 6, 7,000 years. You know what I mean? It's always been fertile. It's another one of the myths. So ZZ2 tomatoes, just check there by Bismillah Fruit and Veg, please. No ZZ2. I can tell you there's a Bismillah Fruit and Veg down my road in Lens, and I'm announcing this, and we will do a story on it. From the very first day that we announced the Clover boycott, he emptied his store of Clover products. The other two is a major campaign. And Pizza Hut, which did the same as McDonald's, let's not forget that, and Puma. Puma must be boycotted in its full. It's an international boycott campaign. Please, when we're there at Rosebank, Puma is also there. Let us understand why we are boycotting Puma. Puma sponsors the Israeli national team, but it mainly sponsors the settler federation. Football teams that play from the illegally occupied territories. And we've asked Puma to say, take a stand, they are illegally occupying Palestine and you are running a league on the backs and on the blood of the Palestinian people. There's no place for Puma. They need to withdraw immediately. And it brings us to the key point, that South African sports people, no matter how young they are, must be held accountable if they celebrate war and soldiers and genocide, like the young Tiger. And we call on Cricket South Africa and the Gauteng Lions to take strict action. Where is it that people can celebrate the killing of 11,000 people and get away with it? Hold him to account. Comrades, friends, brothers and sisters, we need unity in action. Someone said to me, we're very fragmented. And I think there is a sense that the solidarity looks that way. But I can assure you that in Cape Town, that march, we were part of it because we have a link with the PSC and the MJC and the other groups there. The marches that happen in Pretoria or in KZN, and you guys are going around the country. These are our networks that we work together with people across the country. So Sibe, the 29th or the 2nd, the date will be finalized, is a South African shutdown. And we want to declare it as an international day of solidarity with the Palestinian people. I'm going to make one final appeal. And that is that we support the solidarity movement materially. We need funds. All of these campaigns, the National Day of Shutdown is going to need a lot of funding. If people have, please donate. Donate generously. There's collections today. There's collections on our websites. There's always collections being sent out. As much as we must give towards Gaza and the relief, let us also build this very, very strong solidarity, boycott, divestment, and sanction movement in South Africa. Amandla! Ceasefire now! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazim. We've got one more speaker before we get to Dr. Ms. Gilbert. And we are talking about Shamima Kia. Now, she was born in Durban. She migrated to Australia in 2000. She founded Muslim Youth Western Australia and remains as part of the advisory board. She is the current president of the Muslim Women's Support Center of Western Australia in Perth, and is also on the Muslim Advisory Group for the Australian government, representing and advocating for the Muslim community. Now, Shamima has worked in international development and aid since the start of the Syrian war. She has advocated for refugee rights since then. In 2019, she co-founded Humanitarian Aid Consultation and Solutions to revolutionize the way we deliver aid and facilitate the work of charities. Now, Shamima has just returned this afternoon from Egypt. She's been there for 2 weeks. We know what is playing out in Egypt. All eyes are on the Rafah crossing. How many trucks are actually going through the crossing, the aid that is required in Gaza. And I'm sure some of it Shamima will share with you, having just come back this afternoon from Egypt. Shamima Kia, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for.
Assalamu alaikum. I tried really hard to not fall coming here. For those of you who saw my spectacular entrance, I fell on the stairs. So thank you. Now I feel like we're all family. I was, as I've mentioned, born in South Africa, but I am in many ways Australian because I've been living there for the last 23 years. And in my Australian tradition, we begin all of our gatherings with a welcome to country, where we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and future. And we admit that sovereignty has never been ceded. Coming from South Africa, that's really important. But I think that in the context of tonight, that's equally important, given that it is an apartheid and it is a genocide. But I'm here today to talk to you more about the aid, which is a question that's on so many people's minds. We know in many ways there's not enough aid going through. And there's also so much of misinformation about, is there aid going through? I hear every day, there were no trucks gone through, someone sent something through a tunnel, other person, but there's a flight that went in, the pigeons took it in. But we need to dispel that. Because for as long as we have misinformation, the people who suffer from that misinformation are the people of Gaza. I have just come back from Egypt, and I have been doing humanitarian aid for a long time, and we've been through many wars and crises. And we're at the start of this crisis in terms of how we deliver aid. So I'll go through a very simple process and what it is. The only way to get aid right now into Gaza is through Egypt. It goes across the Rafah crossing, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, but I'd like to give you a little bit more information of what that layout looks like. So 30 kilometers away from the Rafah border is a town called Al Arish. Al Arish is home to warehouses of enough aid to go into Gaza. It's being stocked there. Trucks are packed from Al Arish, and they then get transported into Rafah through that crossing. At the moment, in the warehouses in Al Arish, trucks come, but goods are being packed there. There seems to be a little bit of a backlog. Initially, when this crisis started, we were packing truckfuls of beans and truckfuls of rice and truckfuls of all of these different items to go in. But if we think of what a war zone might look like, and if I give you a truck full of beans, well, what are you going to do with that? It doesn't really make sense. And so the authorities within Gaza said, pack for us a food box. It's the easiest thing. And that makes logical sense. So we try and follow the advice that we get from inside of Gaza because they know what they're going through. In as much as we'd all love to get really creative, and I'm sure if we were given the opportunity, each person here would give Gaza absolutely everything. But it's not what they need in terms of aid. We have to make it as convenient as possible for them to be able to access it, because right now, through aid, especially through food, we want to just preserve life. Preservation of life is absolutely essential. So sending some expired biscuits doesn't preserve life. We have to get nutrition. We have to get something that's easy. We need to get something that's convenient. We need to make sure that it has water in there because dehydration is really important, and that's what's important. So we have a box that has been recommended through the authorities in Gaza of what a food box should look like. So we pack these food boxes and we put them together. We had realized very early in, about 2 weeks ago, sending it to Al Arish was not an option for us. We needed to actually pack our boxes in Cairo. And obviously, because it's a war zone, we all want to be as close to the border as possible, right? How many of you wish you could be at Rafah right now? All of you, absolutely. And I, especially, wanted to be there, right? In the early days of the Syrian crisis, I could get into Syria and I could do that. And my humanitarian brain goes, that's where you need to be. But it's actually not. I need to be in a position where I can get as much aid as possible in. And it makes me reflect on all of us need to figure out what is our position in this genocide and what do I need to be doing as an individual. And it might look differently for all of us. But getting back to how we pack these, trucks come. On each truck, you can get 22 pallets. Each pallet can have 72 boxes of food on it. So you could send an entire truck of food. What we find, though, is those trucks get rejected. But if you do a combination of both food and medicine, they seem to get through much better. And so we do 18 pallets of food, and we do 4 pallets of medicine, and they seem to work quite well. So once trucks are actually packed and sealed, there's a packing list done in Cairo. It then goes to Al Arish. From Al Arish, it goes to a different border, which is called the Al Oja border. That border is controlled by the Israelis. Every truck of aid that enters into Gaza has to be inspected and approved by them. So essentially, they still control exactly what goes in. So, we have to then get that approval, and they will tell us on the day how many trucks can go through and how many can't go through. And based on what they allow in is what goes in. From there, it then moves to the Rafah border, and from the Rafah border, it goes across into Gaza. Food aid is handled over to UNRWA and also to the Palestinian Red Crescent. Medical aid goes to the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health then distributes that according to the need on the ground. So how do we purchase medicines and where are we getting this information? Because you could send in anything, but is that what they really need? We get an updated list every couple of days from the Ministry of Health within Gaza to tell us this is what they need. We purchase according to their lists. We give them medical equipment according to what they need. Within the organizations that I work with, we've been able to send in 2 operation theaters, everything that they need in the last 3 weeks. We've sent in medical equipment, we send in medicine, and we're sending in food. But it's unpredictable. Yesterday, 0 aid trucks entered Gaza. 0. The day before that, we celebrated, my team and I, as we were packing boxes, because we have a warehouse that pretty much goes 24/7. We've got 3 shifts where we're packing. And we got the news that 167 trucks of aid had gone through, and it was the highest number we've had. That celebration was short-lived, though, with nothing going in yesterday. And inshallah, a little bit later on today, we'll know how many trucks went in today. But that doesn't stop us. That's not good enough. We have to continue this. We have to continue to pray that there will be a ceasefire. We're hearing in the media that there will be a 5-day pause, and we pray for that pause. Because during that pause, we are all getting ready for it. Tents, blankets, it's starting to get cold, it's raining. These are all things that are essential. And so through the same methods, we're going to try and get it in until such point the borders are open and aid can actually go through. This is our role in this crisis, and I think one of the best things that I would like to actually share with all of you, because we can often lose hope. And there's so many of you who've come out here today, and you give me hope, and I think that we need to give each other hope, because we are hurting as humanity. There isn't any one of us who's sitting here who's not actually hurting. And we need to acknowledge that hurt, but we also need to continue to do whatever it is that we actually can. And we all need to be part of that solution. We will continue our work. We have people all over the world who at the drop of a hat would leave everything and come and give it. We have aid agencies working across the world. So we all need to continue in whatever way we play a role within this crisis and continue to do that. I would like to also thank the organizers for letting me come in. I got off a plane. I'm very sleep deprived. And I'd also like to excuse myself because we won't be able to stay much longer for this event. But I just wanted to acknowledge Dr. Gilbert, and you're so lucky to have him here. We'll be listening online because we actually need to leave. Thank you so much for your attention. South Africa, obviously, will always remain a very close part of me. And it's wonderful that we can be a part of a solution. And I'd like to take that message back to the people that I also work with. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Well, shukran for that, Shamima Kia. And Momese Sibai and I were just talking now, and he made one very, very important statement. He says many of us are actually focused on the politics, but what Shamima has actually brought to this discussion is an eye-opener. At the same time, looking at us at South Africa, we are blessed. We are blessed with many organizations in terms of social upliftment, social development, crisis right across the entire world. And I'm sure that there are many, many organizations across the length and the breadth of this country that are waiting. They are waiting for that Rafah crossing to open. And I'm sure that many of us would want to be there. And there are many people that are actually ready to leave right now. Now, that actually set the scene for Dr. Mads Gilbert. He is a physician, the professor at the Arctic University in Norway, specializing in emergency medicine. And Dr. Mads Gilbert has helped provide emergency trauma care in Gaza for over 4 decades, 40 years. Before he arrived in South Africa, Before arriving in South Africa, Dr. Gilbert has been providing support from Egypt, and he has been awaiting entry into the besieged territory. He has been working in Palestine healthcare since 1981. He has provided emergency medical assistance in Gaza during the past major bombardments in 2006, 2009, 2012, and 2014. He travels to Gaza annually to teach, treat, research, and participate actively to improve Gaza's healthcare alongside with his Palestinian colleagues. And also at the same time today, we've learned about Al-Shifa, a special place in the heart, a special hospital in the heart of Dr. Mads Gilbert, because this is where he's been delivering life-saving trauma and emergency medical care, and also at the Al-Quds Hospital. He's also the co-author of several books on Gaza, which include Eyes in Gaza and the night in Gaza. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've been waiting for, we bring you Dr. Matt Gilbert. Yoo-hoo!
Thank you.
Just a quick announcement. We're going to be leaving the stage. So Mr. Sibai and I think Mr. Kasrils, I don't know if he's gone, but you're here. Okay. So there are some seats in the audience. So if we can just move to the audience and because we've got some presentations that we will be watching.
Shukran كتير. 1 second. I can take this one. Where is this? Can you switch to the computer? There we are. Salam alaikum, everyone. Wow, it's fantastic to be here. It's almost as many people here as there are people in Norway. I would like to speak Arabic tonight, shway shway Arabiya, and my Arabic is perfect, and I add bukra fil mishmish, so I'm not going to speak Arabic. Okay? I wish I wasn't here. I wish I was in Gaza, because that's why I came. We came because we wanted to go to Gaza and to support our brothers and sisters in Gaza, and we have been waiting for more than 4 weeks in Cairo. We've been working, but we will not give up because we are going to Gaza. And me and the team from Norway, we are very eager to get in and to support the healthcare system. We have a mission supported by the Norwegian government. We got $1 million for our mission. We always go to Gaza when there is bombing from the Israeli occupation forces. And it's saying in Gaza that when everybody leaves, then the Norwegians coming. I like that. I like that. Ish? No? Oh, okay. So now I'm getting dressed up for the cameras, and excuse my little, I'm not going to take off my shirt. So thank you, brother, for this one. And if we can have my slides, and we can take down the light, because I'm not the important person tonight. It is what we are going to talk about. I'm going to give a lecture. It's about 3 hours. Can you take that? Tamam. I love it. This is my T-shirt, the back of my T-shirt. I bought it in Al-Quds 3 years ago. I go to Gaza 2 to 3 times every year. And I always travel via Al-Quds, beautiful Al-Quds. And this, for you who speak Arabic, you know what it reads. It reads, Kuluna Gaza. We are all Gaza. And I want you to say that. Kuluna Gaza. Wow, that would never have happened in Norway, because we are very cold and we are very timid and we don't speak up at all. Fantastic to be here and hear the brothers and the sisters and the slogans and the power, because you are a people that showed us that colonialism can be defeated. That's what you showed us. That's what you showed us. And you also showed us that apartheid is no future. Apartheid can be beaten and we can have a good life together. That's what you showed us. And we will continue to learn from that. You have to switch to my slides. Yalla, Habibi. Shukran. So I am extremely happy to be here tonight. I'm extremely happy to meet the fighters. The fighters. Let's give a hand to the fighters who were leading the struggle. Habibi. Wow. Wow.
So after 4 weeks in Cairo, doing 1 million interviews, and we spent $1 million on medical equipment going in, and it's very difficult to get equipment in, and it's even more difficult to get people in because Israel has a complete siege of Gaza. They sealed it completely off. No water, no food, no fuel, no medicines, no medical equipment, no nothing. They are going to slowly starve 2.2 million people inside Gaza as they are bombing them, as they are killing them, as they are bleeding them, and as they are scaring to death Gaza's 1.1 million children. And this happens not in 1423, not in 1123, not in medieval time, but it happens in 2023 in front of our eyes. We can hardly believe it. We can hardly believe it. But I tell you what, we are the stronger part. Good people all over the world are saying, no, we do not accept this. We want a free Palestine. We want to lift the siege of Gaza, and we will not give up until there is a free Palestine. You agree? Yes. Let me start way back. I'm not going to talk for 3 hours. I'm going to talk for 2 hours. No, maybe one. This is 1946. It will be a bit of a history lecture for the young ones, the Habibi and the Habibtis. This is the good old Indian leader. He was also quite a revolutionary guy, by the way. And he said in 1946, 2 years before the Nakba, he said, why should the Jews depend upon American money or British arms for forcing themselves on an unwelcome land? Why should they resort to terrorism to make good their forcible landing in Palestine? They saw it. The smart, the clear, the morally apt people, they saw it in 46 and 48. Einstein said the same, the Jew. And this is not a new thing that we are seeing now. This is an endless story. This did not start on that October 7th. It started at least in 1948. And if you go to Al Jazeera and you watch the documentary called Palestine 1920 by my good friend Ashraf Masharawi from Gaza, Palestine 1920, watch that. It tells the story all the way back. And if you want to have an update on Zionism, colonialism, and the potential for a Palestinian liberation now, go and watch the lecture to our friend, Professor Ilan Pappe, which he gave in Berkeley 4 days after the attack started. Ilan Pappe, it's on YouTube, and it's titled Crisis in Zionism, an Opportunity for Palestine. So this started a long time ago, and many of you are veterans of the struggle. And I'd like to focus on, hey, Ish Malak, ya Bibi. Ish Malak.
We're not picking up the slides.
Wow, that's horrible. We fixed it all. Wait. Oh, you're not picking up the slides. I thought you were professionals. Let's go there. Wait, let's go there. You have it now? No? Okay, we do the simple thing. We disconnect. This is what my mother always did. She turned off the light and turned it on again. And then, let's see. And now you have to do your switch. Ah, shitty. Okay. That's my screensaver. Those are kids from Gaza. These are my children in Gaza. And now we're going to go move one step further and see if we can get my slides. And there we go. There. Anybody who can? That's what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, go ahead, come up. That's fine. I'm doing F7. It's PowerPoint.
PowerPoint?
Here we go. MashaAllah. But then, stop, slide slow. No, I'm starting there. See? Isn't that giving it? No?
Next slide.
It's blocking. I think Mossad was here just before I came. There? There we are. There we go. Now back up. Okay, now we got Gandhi. Okay, Gandhi, he's with us with his soul. This should never have happened. And I want to talk to you, first of all, about the brave healthcare workers in Gaza. I'm not standing here and saying that, oh, we have to go because they can't do it. That's the old colonial attitude from Europe. That's the Orientalism, you know. Oh, they can't do it. We have to have the humanitarian mission down there so they can manage. I'm not part of the relief industry. My mission is solidarity. And when I go there, I go to work alongside with and under the leadership of the Palestinian health workers. This is one of my favorite pictures from the horrible attacks in 2014. It's in the middle of the night. There is a lull in the bombing. We have a little break. It was Ramadan, so we were also eating a little bit in the night. And you have heard their names. This is Dr. Sara Al-Sakka. She has a lot on TikTok for the young ones. You've seen her. She's the first Palestinian female surgeon. She just got her diploma from England. She's the first. She's fantastic. This is my brother, Dr. Marwan Abu Sada. Marwan Abu Sada has been the head of surgical department for many years in Shifa. He's now the head of the International Cooperation Department in Ministry of Health. I hope, I pray, and I beg all good powers that he is still alive, because he is in Shifa now. He is in Shifa now. And dare you kill him, I will come and kill you. Dare you kill him, I will come and kill you. Because he is, not that I don't care about all the others, but they are going after the leaders, you know? And he, shh, don't tell anybody, I think he is Hamas. He might be. And then everyone can kill him, right? No, they cannot. I'll tell you why. This is Dr. Sobiscake, the previous head of Shifa Hospital, British surgeon, a fantastic leader. He was my leader during the bombardment in 2009 and also 2012 and 14. And a fabulous doctor. His daughter, Nashwa Skeik, is also a doctor. She's now working in WHO headquarters in Geneva. And then there are some other good people. And it's such a wonderful moment. And the point is that I am not the person to look at in this picture, because the heroes are the medical staff and the volunteers and the leaders and the people of Gaza. They are the heroes. They are the heroes. And as we are speaking, they are standing tall against two of the most mighty military powers in the world, the United States and Israel. And they don't give up. They don't yield. They don't surrender. They are carrying our dignity on their shoulders, precisely because they stand tall and they say that we will not betray our people and we will fight for the value of each single life in our community. As we are speaking, and I just got a message, I'll take that afterwards. So the local Palestinian staff, they never give up. They are the heroes. They never give in. They never leave their patients and their people. This slide, I made it after 2014. And more than ever, this slide is pertinent to the situation today. You have all heard it. The Israeli commanders calling on phone to the medical directors of Mustashfa Al-Quds, Mustashfa, take the patients out, not in the streets, but in the bombed, nothing to walk on thing, and to evacuate and get rid of all the patients and all the staff. What do they say? We're not leaving. We're standing with our patients. We have the right on our side. We gave an oath when we became doctors, nurses, paramedics, whatever, to stay with our patients. And I've been thinking a lot these 4 weeks, what kind of internal morality do these commanders in the Israeli army have? What kind of internal morality do the commanders and the units and the soldiers and the Minister of Defense have when they think that because they label somebody, something they like to label them, then they can just kill them or they can just attack their hospitals? And you know all what the explanation is. It is deep-rooted. People are not having the same value as them, and this has a name, and the name is apartheid. That's what Israel is all about. And your great leader, Nelson Mandela, he said in 1962, you all remember that quote, don't you? The 1962 quote. He said, the country leaders should do well, therefore, to reflect upon the words of Nelson Mandela in 1962 during his trial before the apartheid court in South Africa. He said, no power on earth can stop an oppressed people determined to win their freedom. History punishes those who resort to force and fraud to suppress the claims and legitimate aspirations of the majority of the country's citizens. Government violence can do only one thing, and that is to breed counter-violence. He was right. He was absolutely right. And we need to remember these words today when we are going to put ourselves in the right position. Because the media and the discussions are flooded with this term terrorism and Hamas and Palestinian terrorists. Listen, I don't support Hamas. I don't support Fatah. I don't support Jihad or PFLP. I and the Norwegian Solidarity Movement, we support the Palestinian people and their right to resist occupation, also with arms. Also with arms. Of course, they have to respect the Geneva Convention and the rules of war and not attack civilians. I'm against any attack on civilians, and I think that people who break the international law, they have to be taken to court and be investigated and punished if they have done any war crimes. But the point is that the Palestinian people has the right to fight occupation. And that's anchored in international law. That's why the West is so eager to come with billions and tons of weapons to Ukraine. When they are invaded, you can fight. We'll give you weapons. We'll give you money. We'll give you political support. And it took less than a week after the Russian invasion of eastern Ukraine before Europe, EU, and the United States had imposed massive sanctions on Russia. How long did it take to impose sanctions on Israel? Has not yet happened. And this double standard is frightening, and it is very worrisome because it is showing us that the world is much more racist still than we hoped. Why is there so strong support for the anti-occupation struggle in Ukraine? Well, maybe because the people there are blonde, white-skinned, and blue-eyed like me. It's very uncomfortable to think about it, but that's it. And the Palestinians are discussing the double standards of the West all the time. And in Cairo, all my Arab friends are discussing it, and they say we have lost complete confidence in Europe and in the United States. Everything that has been done to have some sort of reconciliation between the global South and the global North after 9/11 and all of that has been completely smashed by Israel in these weeks that we have passed. I mean, This would never have happened in Norway, I tell you. So I've been working in Gaza. My first travel as a doctor to Gaza was in 1989. I worked there during the 2 intifadas, and I've been there ever since. And I work with many things. I research, I teach at university, I work with development of the healthcare, and I go there every time there is attacks on Gaza. I know Gaza well. It's part of my heart. My friends in Gaza, it's my second home. I've friends there who have been my friends for 20 years and more. And it is really a place that have taught me a lot about life and justice. So Gaza is siege, it's hard living, but it is also a phenomenous will to resist and survive. Gaza is sumud. You know sumud? Arab word, it means steadfastness. It's part of the Palestinian virtue, or the Palestinian soul. Gaza resists and Gaza exists. Nobody is going to exterminate or finish off Gaza. It will not happen. Gaza will have victory. Gaza will have victory. And this important picture, maybe you recognize it, that's from the Great March of Return a few years ago, when all the societies and all types of parties and organizations in Gaza said, after a student actually suggested it, let's go to the fence every Friday and protest. The West wants us to be non-violent protesters. Let's do that. And they did that for 1.5 years. Every Friday they went. I was there. What did Israel do? They posted more than 100 snipers in camouflage tents. And every Friday when people came, they started shooting. And where did they shoot? To kill? In the heart? No. They did the same as during the Intifada. They are shooting to the knees, to the ankles, to the elbows. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young girls and boys have been losing their mobility because this is the tactic of the occupiers. It is to inflict as much pain as possible, to tell anyone who dares raise their voice, a poem, a stone, a slingshot, a burning tire, a Kalashnikov, any one of them will be punished with an immediate life sentence or some sort of inflicted pain. They don't give up, they continue their struggle. And now, my friends, I'm not going to repeat all the painful images that you have seen, but I wanted to start with this tribute to my colleagues, this tribute to the Palestinian people, this tribute to a people who do not yield under pressure, who really do not kneel to the colonial occupiers, and who is actually telling the world that there is another path, there is the path of resistance. And I'm absolutely sure that what you managed here during your struggle is a huge inspiration. We all know the quote from Mandela, our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. That's posted all over Gaza. That's posted all over Gaza. And we shall not rest until Gaza is free. But I do not want to paint this picture of a suffering, begging, pitiful Palestine or Gaza, because that's exactly the picture that the colonizers want. They want, now Europe is saying, maybe we should provide a little humanitarian help. Maybe it would be nice. Maybe we should send some water to the thirsty children in Gaza. Wouldn't that look nice? And they get the Israelis to open the gates of Rafah this much. And they allow in 20 trucks. And it's reported all over, 20 trucks. You know what? Gaza has been under siege for 16 years before this happened. And during these 16 years, the average need for supplies into Gaza was approximately 400 trucks per day in periods without bombing. Now you can do your math. 4 weeks without any supply. We have a backlog of between 10,000 and 15,000 truckloads just to get up to null. and they are letting in 3 to 4 to 5 trucks a day, and everybody's, they are getting support. It's a sham. And as my friend, my sister said, every truck that goes from El Arish into Rafah cannot go into Rafah, straight north. They have to go east to Khmer Shalom, which is the truck entry point controlled by Israel. There, the Israelis are going through every box, filtering through everything and taking out what they don't think the Palestinians should have. Among other, you know what they take out? They take out all anesthetic drugs. Can you imagine? And this is not a rumor. I know the source. I know it's true. Can you imagine what kind of cruel sadism that is? And I'd like to correct one thing that has been said in media, that Palestinian doctors are doing major surgery without anesthesia. They do not. Full stop. Full stop. I can assure you, I've been there during bombing. I know that we and they adhere to absolutely the same ethical standards as we do here and back in Norway and anywhere. It is true that some minor procedures like dressing a wound or fixing a fracture. Why do you take off my picture? Why do you do this, Habibi? They can see me. I told you, I'm not the hero. They are the hero, so I need the slides up and not me, for heaven's sake. Thank you. No, that's me. I want to go to Gaza. So they don't do any surgery, any big surgery, major surgery without general anesthesia, but they may have to do some minor dressings, maybe some minor suture, because they don't have local anesthetics. But who made that situation? Who was it who denied them medicine? Before this last attack, the essential drug list, which is a WHO list of drugs that you need to serve a population, they only had 40% of the essential drug list in Gaza because of the siege, before this happened. And now, of course, they're out of most of the drugs. And we have seen the attacks on healthcare. This is from outside Shifa Hospital when the Israelis bombed the ambulance convoy going with very, very selected patients who were accepted by Egypt to go to Egypt. And they bombed it. First when they were driving down the road, and then they returned back to Shifa, and they bombed it and killed around 14, I think was the final number. I've been in these convoys during the attacks. I've been sitting in one of these convoys on the way to Rafah, and there were 2 Israeli tanks on the side. We were coordinated with ICRC and everything. And then they turned the big barrels, the big cannons towards us, and they followed us, and suddenly they started shooting at the convoy. They smashed the ICRC car in front of us. He got injured. We turned around, got back to Gaza, luckily unharmed. They don't care about regulations. They don't care about appointments. They don't care about anything. And you all have seen the pictures from Shifa. And I fear that this very night that we are gathered here may be the last night of Shifa Hospital. I just got a message from my dear brother, Dr. Youssef Aburish, who is the Minister of Health, the Deputy Minister of Health in Gaza. And he sent me this just 20 minutes ago. He said, they are going to enter Shifa Hospital within few minutes. We have to stop it. We can't stop it tonight. But this is extremely worrisome because we don't know how many they will kill, how many they will capture and torture, and how many of the remaining patients in Shifa will die from maltreatment and from the lack of oxygen and lack of electricity. So we should almost stay up all night and follow the development and discuss what is happening. Okay, I agree, I think I agree. Maybe you're shouting the same as I'm saying here. You are needed now. You are needed now. Every one of you is a power. Every one of you is a force. Every one of you young shababs can change the world. And that's what the comrades did when you were fighting and winning over apartheid and showed the world. I grew up in a middle-class family in Norway. My mother was a nurse. My father was an engineer. We never had South African fruit cocktail in my home. My mother said, we're not going to buy anything from South Africa. And she made an impression on me that has followed me the rest of my life. I have it in my blood, in my bones, that I should not support apartheid. I had to learn what it was. I didn't understand the word. But she taught me, and you are going to teach your children what is happening in Gaza. Okay. And when I say you are needed now, I want you to look yourself in the mirror when you get home, and you're going to be very honest to yourself. I tell you what, I feel helpless against this enemy, against this evil. I have a hard time getting up in the morning in Cairo because I know I'm going to open my mobile and there's going to be like 40 WhatsApp messages, 20 of them from Gaza, and the one more horrific than the other. And I don't know how long I can stand it. And then I think, if they can, I can. If they can, I can. They have to, I have to. I have to be a force. I have to do something. I have to give some interviews. I have to spread information. I have to do something. All of you, look around there. It's an army of good hearts. It's an army of power. This is the army where we actually can show the leaders that you are the weak part and we are the strong part. And then we can defeat them. And that's the point. We can defeat them and we will defeat them. Yay, yay. I'm so eager now. The two most beautiful words in my language is love and solidarity. Those are the two most precious qualities in human life, I think. Love, because we can embrace each other and take care of each other and make the world and life a good thing. Solidarity, because we all will need it one day, and because it's one of the best things that we as humans can provide and share and give to somebody else. Somebody down on their knees for disease or maybe poverty or maybe a crackdown, whatever, temporarily. Somebody needing our support during a strike, somebody needing our practical help, or somebody like the people of Palestine and the people of Gaza needing our active solidarity and our active action. And I love this quote from Samora Machel. He says, solidarity is not an act of charity. It's an act of unity between allies fighting on different terrains towards the same objective. When we fight for Palestine in Norway or in South Africa, we are actually also fighting for a better society for ourselves and our people in our life. We want freedom, we want justice, we want equality, we don't want racism, we don't want apartheid, and we do certainly not want colonialism. And this solidarity is precisely what the world is needing now. So many good quotes from the great African leaders. I don't have the same amount of quotes from European leaders, I'm sorry to say. Very sorry to say. I'm a child of European colonialism. I'm a child of Orientalism. And it's taken me years and years and years and years to wash my brain and my spinal fluid of these attitudes, these white reflexes, like, oh, we have to go and help them, and all of that shit. So no, really. And we need to take a critical look on also how the relief industry has maintained the colonial grip on the global south through this, oh, we'll send some convoy with help, you know? You see what I mean? And Gaza is the perfect example, because in Gaza, there is now a handful of brave, but a handful of foreign doctors and nurses. They are doing the job themselves, and nobody can do it better than them, because they are world-class expert in what we call mass casualty. When a hospital, a healthcare system is overwhelmed by patients from an earthquake, from a flooding, or from Israeli bombing. They stand up, they know how to do it, and they do it. They do it. So they don't need us, but solidarity is another quality of the support, because that means respect, shoulder to shoulder, and supporting their struggle on their premises, under their leadership. That's a totally different thing. So they attack healthcare, they attack schools, they attack universities, they attack the Palestinian people. They bombed Al-Azhar University 10 days ago. Not much noted in Western media. I'll let them bomb a few. I mean, the universities. I tell you a secret. It's a Hamas university. So they had to bomb it. In fact, it's not Hamas University. It's a Fatah University, mostly governed by Ramallah and the West Bank. And I'll come back to that stupid metaphor, because it is not about Hamas. Don't use the word. Change that word out of your vocabulary and be principled and talk about Palestinian resistance, because that's what it is all about. As I said, and now I may lose control because I have so much emotions from the last 4 weeks, and I'm so outraged and so scared and so afraid that these people will be killed, that forgive me if I start weeping. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of emotions. And we should never, ever be ashamed of our passion. We should never be ashamed of having strong feelings, because that's driving the world towards a better place. So cherish your compassion, brother. Keep shouting down in the corner. Yes. I talk to Dr. Youssef almost every day. I've known him for 15 years. He's a fantastic guy. He's a pediatrician, but he's been the Minister of Health in Gaza for the better part of 10 years under very difficult circumstances. He called me the other day, November 8th, 3:15 in the afternoon, and he said, "There is no more time, Dr. Mats. There is no more time." And I'll tell you what he said. But first, who is he? Yeah, and that's the point. No, I'm not going to let you see him first, because this spooky thing, Hamas, it doesn't have a face. You never see the people. Are they humans, or are there some sort of phantoms coming up from the graves and eating people alive in the night? What is it, I'll tell you what they are. They are blood and flesh, hearts and brains, just like us. And this is my hero. This is Dr. Youssef Abarish. Give him a big hand. Yay. And again, the hero in this picture is not this white man coming from fat, rich, spoiled Norway with a red passport. I can go wherever I want. I get loose everywhere. Nobody stops me. I don't even got a visa this morning in Johannesburg airport. The hero here is, of course, Dr. Youssef. He's a devoted Muslim. He has a Syrian wife, and he has a bunch of beautiful children. Every time I go to Gaza, like here, we have dinner, and his wife's food, Syrian food, mashallah, it's just fantastic. And I have a lot of discussions with his children. I have to tell you one story, because it was last year we had a goodbye party with ice cream. And this guy I'm Amo Mats, okay, Uncle Mats. And he is very preoccupied with me. And we had this ice cream, coffee to say farewell. I had some few gifts. They had made some gifts to me. And he said, I have a question. And I saw that Youssef got a little bit uneasy. And the son said, how is it possible that Dr. Mats, who is such a good person, is not a Muslim? How is that possible? Okay, so Dr. Youssef was a little, now, like he would say, he is a Muslim, he just doesn't know it, right? But we discussed, and we had a discussion, and I said, well, no, I'm not a Muslim, I'm a romantic agonist. I believe in this and that. Sometimes a little bit of Allah, a little bit of God, a little bit of nature, but I'm not a Muslim. And then his sister, the big one, 18, she said, after having listened to our discussions, she said, I don't care about if he is a Muslim or not. I just want to see him in paradise. So when my labor, your speech, man, can you take me on a crash course in how to give a real appeal? That was fantastic. When you said we had to boycott, no, it was the BDS guy said we have to boycott Puma. The loudspeaker was a little bit muddy, so I thought he said we have to boycott humor. And I got a little bit uneasy about how serious this campaign in South Africa is, because I love humor and we need humor. But the point about that little story about his son, Muhammad, I want to make a point. The struggle for Palestine, the solidarity with Gaza these days, it's not a Muslim cause. It's not a Christian cause. It's not a Catholic cause. It is a human cause for every one of us. For every one of us. And when the Palestinian people in Gaza, also in the West Bank, are trying to stand up, and they forget about their diversity and their political struggles because they are like one fist fighting this bombing and all this death, we should do the same. Brothers and sisters, let's put aside political discussions and disagreements, and let's be like one fist in the solidarity work and in the BDS work. We need unity more than ever. More than ever. So he says, we are still surviving, but we are miserable. There is no bread, no food, no water in the hospitals, just essential services. Most of the time, no administration due to lack of electricity. Most of our staff have not had a piece of bread in days. And you saw when this was? This was on the, yeah, right. So it's a week ago, almost a week ago. And he said, we tried to have a minimal amount of water. Situation is so miserable, extreme situation. We continue to provide service, but no medicines. And I said, what can you do for the injured children, the majority? And he said, we pray for them. That's what we do. We pray for them. And his voice cracked. I never heard that man's voice cracking before. So this is what they are up to. And now he's saying that Israeli occupation soldiers are coming into Shifa. We have seen there's been fighting around the whole day today, and they've been killing nurses with snipers through the windows. But they are still there, and it is chaotic. Yeah. So he says there is no time to lose, and I believe him that that is the fact. It's overcrowded. Before this last incursion around Shifa with the tanks, there were 50,000 internally displaced persons in Shifa, 50,000. Imagine one of your nice hospitals here in Johannesburg having 50,000 refugees coming, and then they lose the electricity and the water and the medical supplies and the food. And then you have 1,000 more wounded. Can you imagine? I would be lying in the corner and weeping. I wouldn't be able to stand up to it. How can I stand up to it? Because I work with my Palestinian brothers and sisters, because they give me energy, because they don't give up, I don't give up. But it is an absolutely horrific situation. And you see how they are putting 2, 3, 4 patients in each bed. This is on the November 8th. Yeah, and then I'm going to show you 2 videos. This is Dr. Youssef. Can you take down the light even more? This is Dr. Youssef walking with his phone as light in the corridors of Shifa Hospital medical block. This is what a hospital looks with 50,000 refugees. These are the feet of a leader. These are the feet of Dr. Youssef Aborish. looking after his people. And this is some light at the nurses' working station, not giving up.
While this apartment is full of displaced people, and they are trying, actually they are trying, in a very difficult situation, trying to reach the difficult rooms where a lot of cases are inside, and you can't see what is going on the ground. We just move between displaced people who are everywhere. I'm trying just to move between displaced people while even unable. So بالضبط سؤال مش هصور كافي بس على الإضاءة عشان I'm just trying والله just to be able to move. And you can see people there everywhere.
And all the people you see here are people who have lost their homes to Israeli bombing. There are currently 1.6 million internally displaced Palestinians in Gaza without a home, without shelter, without blankets, without water, without food. More than 1 million people. And the international relief organizations are nowhere to be seen because Israel is blocking any entrance to Gaza. The bread is almost absent. This is bread on a bloody trailer that has been carrying injured and wounded to Shifa. Let me see now. I have a new pointer. So is this new? No, this is not new. This is a paper we wrote in the famous British medical journal, The Lancet, on January the 17th in 2009, when we had been 3 weeks in Shifa during the Operation Cast Lead. You remember that? Cast Lead was horrible. And we had a subtitle there saying Living Hell. My point is that Israel has been doing this for many decades, attacking healthcare systems. So these sceneries are not new. I remember these scenes from 2009 and 12 and 14 and whatnot. And I also remember the immense capacity to improvise, to find solutions, to treat patients on the floor. I remember one of my most graphic experiences was in 2009 when I think we had 22 patients who needed life-saving surgery immediately in general anesthesia. There are 8 operating rooms in Shifa at that time. And what did they do? Well, they just put 2 operating tables in each room, and we could double from 8 to 16 operations. And I was doing anesthesia in 2, and there were 2 surgical teams working. Simple as that. I would never have thought of it. So they are absolutely masters of improvisation, and they find solutions all the time. They don't give up. And they still treat patients as we are speaking. And you've all seen the 38 neonates that had to be taken out of the incubators. Why? Because there was a natural disaster? No. Because the Israeli government, with full support from the United States, decided to shoot and damage the oxygen supply system, turn off the electricity, deny them fuel for the generators, deny them food and water. It's all man-made. It's not an earthquake. It's 100% planned and made by the Israeli army and the Israeli government to make and inflict as much pain as possible and kill as many as possible of the Palestinian people in Gaza. So the systematic attacks on Palestinian healthcare, do you need some numbers? I'll give you some numbers. And I'm sick and tired of every interview I give, if it is CNN or BBC or Al Jazeera or anyone. They start, and even today we had a bunch of interviews. The nice journalists, they say, Dr. Mas, you have been working in Shifa. Is it a military command and leader center? Is there a military command center under Shifa for Hamas? I've been working in Shifa for 16 years and during all these attacks. I've never seen a soldier. I've never seen a high-ranking political leader from the resistance. I've seen the Minister of Health, and he should be there. But this is ridiculous because the point is that Israel doesn't need an excuse to bomb Shifa because that's their modus operandi. That's what they do every time there is an attack. Look at this. Look at this. No, wrong way again. Here, you're going to see some very updated UN numbers. You probably can see it, but it's from yesterday's Health Cluster Report, which is the report that comes from the health cluster in the United Nations. To your left here is the map of Gaza, and all the black dots are hospitals that are not functioning. All the orange dots or yellow dots are hospitals that are partially functioning. Okay? And let me see. So if you look at that map, yes, now it's right. And if you look at the number of hospitals over the last 4 weeks, we start over here on the 8th of October. The yellow bars are hospitals that are functioning, and the gray bars are hospitals that are out of function because of the attacks. What do we see? We see a systematic line. Day by day, they are attacking more and more hospitals. It's not about Shifa. It's about attacking the complete social fabric of Palestine, of Gaza, to erase any sign of human civilized society and to erase the presence of Palestinian life, not only killing, but also bringing down the social fabric of Gaza. And this graph has been known to the media for 4 weeks, and still they keep talking about Shifa Hamas, Shifa Hamas, Shifa Hamas. What's wrong with them? Can't they read? Don't they see that this is a pattern? Don't they see that this is deliberate? And if you want these numbers, I'm very happy to give them to you, and you can find it. We'll find a website so you can get all these numbers. This is from yesterday. And if you look at the numbers of attacks on healthcare, oh, but Israelis, they don't attack healthcare. It's only some mismanaged rocket. No, they've been attacking healthcare systematically over the last 40 years. I was in Beirut in 1982 during the siege and bombardment of Beirut, which ended with the Sabra and Shatila massacre. It was horrible. It was my first experience as a very young anesthesiologist, very naive, very much thinking about, I can go there and be a doctor and I can help with solidarity and we will win the struggle in Beirut. No, we didn't. In fact, we barely saved our lives. But I learned one thing, and that is that the Israeli war machine, they take no precautions. They were bombing schools, hospitals, ambulances, and they did this tactique of first bombing, and then the good people came to try to rescue those in the rubble. They came back and bombed them also. Oh yeah, oh yeah. They bombed bakeries, they bombed water pipelines, sewage systems. I got hepatitis, shigellosis, and giardiasis because we didn't have water. That was in 1982, and there were absolutely no accountability for those crimes, nothing. And it ended with the butcher of Beirut, Ariel Sharon, who had the responsibility for the Sabra and Shatila massacre. These are the numbers of Israeli attacks on healthcare system and resources the last few weeks. Starts down here to the left, here. Those are the first days. And can you see, is it exactly the same pattern? Yes. So through these 4 weeks, they have actually attacked 152 healthcare structures in Gaza, and they have attacked 158 healthcare structures in the West Bank. Why don't the media write about this? These are UN numbers. It's not something I invented. And they killed, in Gaza so far, they have killed 198 health workers, 31 doctors, 68 nurses, 20 paramedics, 26 pharmacists, and 14 lab staff. Does anybody talk about that? Does CNN and BBC talk about that? Well, they start to talk a little bit about it. But the pattern, my point is the pattern. Look at this. They start here and they increase the attack every day. 8th of October, 15th of October, 22nd of October, 5th of November, 12th of November. Every day there are more attacks, both in the West Bank and in Gaza. A steady tactique of undermining every security network that the Palestinian people have in the West Bank and in Gaza. Because what is their goal? Their goal is, I think, to pressure, to scare, and to intimidate and to destroy so much that they can push the Palestinian people in Gaza into the Sinai Desert, and they can push the Palestinian people in the West Bank into Jordan. It will never happen, because they will resist and we will resist. I'm soon finished. I know you're tired. Do you need some cases? I'll give you a few cases, just 2. When you have nothing, you must find something. I have a very good friend, Dr. K. I will not name his full name because of security reasons. He works in one of the hospitals in the south of Gaza. You know, the Israelis said, would you please leave your homes because we're going to bomb them? And would you please leave, not please, I'm being ironic. You have to go to the south because that's safe. How many of the killed the last 2 weeks have been killed in the north and in the south? Between 40 and 47% of the killed have been killed in the south. It's a full lie. It's not safe at all. And they're shooting. Dr. K, he tells me, and he works in the south, told me yesterday, we are getting more and more cases with gunshot to the legs. And I said, Ish, why? And he says, because all these refugees who are walking the main road along the shore down to the south, when the Israeli soldiers see them, they shoot at their legs. Can you imagine? Completely unarmed people they have forced them to go to the south, and when they do it, they shoot them in the legs. This girl had a very severe burn. She was taken to his hospital. They didn't have the needed equipment to do the proper treatment. They don't have local anesthetic. They don't have disinfectants. 100% of the wounds, he says, are infected. But they find a way. They find a way. She has pain, but they find a way. They don't have electricity. Normally, you would put up some fans to cool down the wounds, the burns, okay? And they would put on some nice gel, to cool down the burns. She will need lots of transplantations. Here is their solution. It's the human fan. Her mother using a piece of cardboard to fan her daughter so that she can ease her pain a little bit. And Dr. K, who filmed, he comes by and he says, you're clever, and they laugh a little bit, and this is the sumud. This is the practical resistance. And I'm showing you one film you might have seen from outside Shifa Hospital. Which date is it today? It's the 15th? Yeah, so this is from yesterday, I believe. They said, the Israelis said, oh, come out with the white flag and your hands in the air. People do that and they shoot them. This is from outside Shifa yesterday. He's carrying his dead brother, I believe, killed. This is just outside Shifa. And there are lying, killed people all around. Killed people, killed people. And he hears the explosions. You can see the tons of rubble, and you see the evacuees walking there with their, you know, whatever they have. You see the civilian cars being shot to pieces, white flags, and what awaits them in the south is more death and more suffering. And the numbers needed, well, every day in the afternoon, the Minister of Health spokesperson in Gaza, he presents a press release with all the numbers. This is fed into the UN system. The UN, they trust the numbers because they know how they are collecting the numbers. I trust the numbers because I'm a scientist, I do research, and I have to find out, are these numbers right? I went to the office where they collect the numbers, I checked it, and I checked the methodology, and it was perfect. So these numbers come out every afternoon. And you can see this is from the 8th of November, the precise number of martyrs, 10,569, and half of them children, or 4,300. Women, elderly, and 193 health personnel. I'll give you a very easy number to remember. During the last 4 weeks, the Israeli occupation army has killed or wounded 40,000 Palestinians in Gaza. They have killed 12,000. No, excuse me. They have injured 28,000, and they have killed 12,000. Injured 28,000, killed 12,000, and out of those 12,000, 6,000 are children and missed children. The missed children, 1,250, are under the rubble of their homes. Okay? Remember that number. 40,000 killed or wounded within 4 weeks of Israeli attack on Gaza. It's a horrible apartheid number. And I made a calculation because on that 7th of October, there were 131, according to UN, 131 Israeli children killed. That is, of course, 131 too many. No kids should be killed in any conflict nowhere in the world. But that's the end number. No single child has been killed later on the Israeli side. And we have 6,000 Palestinian children killed or missing. If you do the math, it's a very simple number. For each killed Israeli child, the Israeli occupation army has killed 195 Palestinian children. 1 to 195. So one Palestinian life is worth barely 1/200 part of an Israeli life. And this is, of course, a crude apartheid number. We need to know the facts. We need to know the numbers. We need to confront our leaders with these numbers. And I'm not going to show you pictures of the dead children. And here are more numbers from the same report. And here, you know, these are the people killed. Hundreds per day, 200, 250 per day. One child killed every 10 minutes, around the clock, around the clock, around the clock. One child every 10 minutes. 6 children per hour, around the clock, killing, killing, killing. With the back padding of the United States, with the back padding of almost all the governments in Europe. Here comes colonialism back. Here comes fascism back. The toxic combination of racism, of military power, and apartheid, and colonization of other people. To me, that has a name. It's called fascism because it has a disregard for life, and it has a disregard and disrespect for human value. That's the core of the politics against the Palestinians in Gaza. This is from the ambulance attack, and it was horrible, and it will be repeated, I think. They call on all parties to stand up and say something and do something, and all parties are paying lip service, and almost nothing is happening. Here I stand, I should have been in Gaza. There are hundreds of good teams that should have been in Gaza. Only a fraction is allowed in. So what is needed now, my friends? What is needed now? We need solidarity, we agree. We need activism, and it's not enough. And I'm so happy to see all of you tonight. It's not enough to push like on Facebook if there is a demonstration, and roll over to the side and attend to your remote control and have another glass of water or whatever you're drinking. You have to stand up, move your ass, and get going. You have to stand up, move your ass, and get going. Just like you have done tonight. So we need activism, we need action. I have a proposal. I'm not going to mingle into the elections in South Africa. I'm very respectful. I didn't say a word about President Morsi. No, not Morsi, the guy in Egypt. But I'll give you a little proposal. You know, you have a navy, right? You already called home the ambassador to Tel Aviv. That was very nice. But you have a navy. And Gaza has a 45-kilometer shoreline to the Mediterranean. What about you, your government, and a few other governments in South America set up a flotilla of Navy ships filled with water, blankets, food, medicine, and maybe 100 medical teams. Now you sail that convoy all the way, going to take a week, into the Mediterranean, you anchor up, you go into the shores of Gaza, and you empty that valuable cargo to the people of Gaza. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wow. Is it possible? You know what Jordan did last week? Did you see what Jordan, the state of Jordan, did? They actually filled up a Hercules cargo plane, military, with medicine and supplies. And they did not ask permission from the occupying army. They flew it in. They were breaking the siege, flew it in and dropped it with parachutes into Gaza. All that supply. And I know it's true because I was invited to see Queen Rania last week. She is a smart lady, I tell you. Guys, we have to accept that ladies are, by and large, smarter than we are. I'm sorry to say, they are. So she said, we may be flying more cargo planes. And I said, is it true? Was it just a rumor? No, we did it, she said. She said, it was a public official meeting, and she also said that, we may do it again. I say, can I be on the passenger list? Because I want to jump out in a parachute over Gaza. And she said, we'll see. But the point is, my friends, the point is that there is no limit to what we can do. If we just don't let our brain be occupied by the occupier's fear and threats and limitations. And that's what they want to do with this labeling of people as Hamas or whatever. I don't care about who are the leaders of the Palestinian resistance. I respect their choice of leaders. And this Hamas labeling is extremely dangerous. You know what they did in 36, 38, 40 in Germany? They said, all evil on earth is caused by the Jews. Put a yellow star here and you can do what you want with them. That's what they're doing today. Anyone who resists Israel is called a Jew or Hamas. You see my point? This is a cruel repetition of history. And I agree, Gaza is not an open-air prison. It's a concentration camp. Because in prison, there are people who are convicted. Yeah. So we need to pressure the power. We need support for Gaza. And I repeat, so you can learn it by heart, solidarity is not an act of charity. It is an act of unity between people who fight on different terrains towards the same goal. No apartheid, no colonialism, equal possibilities for everyone. and equal value to anyone who lives on this earth. I see that you're getting a little bit tired. I understand that totally, because I've been talking and talking and talking. And I'm just gonna end by a nice conclusion, because now it's 10 to 10, and I guess it's a little bit too late to keep going. So let me, not so elegantly, conclude this. And here you see all the stories I wanted to tell you. All the stories. I'm going to just do one thing at the end. And a few slogans to end up with. As I said, I strongly believe that the... okay, here we go again. My patience is not very strong. Look at this number here. You have to forgive me. I am a researcher. I am a doctor. This graph is from WHO last year. It's showing life expectancy and how many kids are dying per 1,000 born kids, and under 5 mortality, and how many mothers are dying during delivery and during the first week after delivery. And you see here, how long can you live in Gaza compared to Israel? 9 years shorter. How many more children are dying in Gaza than in Israel? 4 times more. Under 5, 3.5 times more. Mothers dying during delivery and afterwards, 9 times more. These are not, you know what this is? This is man-made. This is medical apartheid. This is because the Palestinian people in Gaza is not allowed to have the same healthcare system as they have in Israel. They don't have radiation therapy for cancer. We've been working on that for 3 years to establish that at the Turkish hospital. You know, if you get breast cancer in Gaza, a woman, you know what her chance to live for 5 years is? It's barely 60%. In Norway, 98%. In Israel, 97%. Brutal numbers, brutal numbers. There's no difference between the biology, but the access to healthcare and the oppression of the people, this is medical apartheid. And the world leaders, they know all these numbers, and they know that these numbers are brutal consequences of an endless Israeli apartheid and settler colonialism and the siege of Gaza. So why are no sanctions or consequences imposed on the perpetrators? And this is one of the biggest moral problems in the world today. It is the Israeli impunity. They are never held accountable, and when the pit bull is not, kept in a chain and gets rabies as they have now, it's not possible to control it. Because Israel has this strong belief that there is no limit to what they can do. So we know all these reported research and documented facts. I've shown you some, and I think the reason why nothing is happening is this Israeli impunity, guaranteed, protected, and promoted by the United States. They are never held accountable. Had they been taken to the International Criminal Court, all their leaders would have been prosecuted and put to jail. I swear to God, that would have happened. And that must happen. Now they must go to the International Criminal Court and be held accountable. So we demand that. And my last slide is my most important slide when I talk about this in Europe and in the United States. I lecture a lot in the United States. Because everybody says, oh, this is such a difficult conflict. Oh, don't give me a headache. It's such a difficult conflict. This is not a difficult conflict. This is a difficult occupation. And we want an end to the occupation. We want an end to colonialism, to racism and apartheid. Long live Palestine. Long live the struggle. And free Gaza. Kuluna Gaza. Shukran iktir. Yalla for Gaza. All of us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Go home and sleep. No, go home and be active.
Well, what more could we ask for? And ladies and gentlemen, we're obviously going to be skipping the Q&A. I know it's late, but before that, I've just got one item. Believe me, it's not going to take too long. Salam Media actually pulled this tour of Dr. Mads Gilbert within a space of 5 days for a countrywide tour. And this was not possible without our CEO, Shamshir Khan. But also we've got a very, very young team, really. But we've got a committed team. We've got a dedicated team. And I'd just like to call them on stage to acknowledge the role that this young, dedicated team has played towards this campaign. So all the Salam Media staff.
Okay, I'll try and keep this nice and simple. I think my team is more exhausted than anyone else here. In fact, we've been at the airport since 7 a.m. waiting for Dr. Mads. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed donors, special guests, and our cherished attendees. Good evening and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Tahia Wadiwala, the event manager and coordinator for this evening. However, this would not be possible without my colleagues, Uncle Inayat, Auntie Mia, and the rest of the Salam Media team standing here behind me. To Dr. Mads Gilbert, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Thank you to our speakers, Ronnie Kasrils, Mantle Sibai, Shamima Kia, and Uncle Nazim Adam. To my parents and friends who are seated here today, thank you times a million. Your support this week has been everything and more that I could have asked for. As I stand here tonight, basking in the glow of this remarkable event, and we conclude day 1 of 8 of Dr. Mads' short stay in South Africa, our hearts are filled not only with gratitude, but also with a profound awareness of the urgent humanitarian crisis unfolding. My sincerest appreciation goes out to our incredibly generous donors, the Lakewood Conference Center, Auntie Tasneem Good and Uncle Ibrahim, who without your generosity and support, we wouldn't be here tonight. A special mention to Zakia and Calvin as well. Thank you to Teba Function Hire, Auntie Shanaz and Uncle Hashimi, the Monarch Hotel, who has graciously given us their accommodation. Thank you to Auntie Sophia, Uncle Irfan and Hisham, as well as Ozzy from Ozzy's Kitchen. Our supporting partners, Africa for Palestine and the Palestinian Solidarity Alliance. Mobi Sound, Uncle Ibrahim Samsudeen. Vision Tactical, Uncle Yasin, Uncle Firoz, Salman, Adnan, and Mojo. Again, 1,000 times Jazakallah for pulling through for us. And lastly, for our supporting partners, Africa, again, as I'm going to say it one more time, Africa for Palestine and the Palestinian Solidarity Alliance. Your unwavering support has not only provided the financial foundation for this event, but has also become a lifeline for those facing dire challenges in regions like Gaza. To our esteemed special guests, including the distinguished Dr. Mads Gilbert, your presence here adds a lot of significance to our gathering. Your tireless efforts in both the medical field and as a passionate advocate for justice, particularly in the context of the humanitarian crisis in places like Gaza, exemplify the urgency of our collective responsibility. We are honored to have you with us, sir, and extend our deepest appreciation for your dedication to healing and addressing the pressing needs of those in crisis. I'd like to give a hearty welcome once again to all of you, friends, family, and colleagues from extended media houses who have joined us as well. Dr. Mads' tour doesn't stop here. Tomorrow we've got a couple of press interviews. Friday evening, he's at the NMJ Hall in Durban. Saturday, we are back in Pretoria at 3 p.m. at the El Ghazali School Hall, with a quick trip to PE on Sunday and then a few days in Cape Town thereafter. Please keep a lookout on our social media for further information. And once again, Jazakallahu khair.